Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's fireside chat. As you can tell, I am not Max. Max is in Envision Fest, so I am filling in, but I've been working behind the scenes to book all of these incredible guests and incredible giraffes to join us in this, just sharing their wisdom basically. And today we have a special treat. We have Erik, and I'll allow him to introduce himself in a second. But basically, we are going to do an introduction to lucid dreaming and breath work, which I think everybody's excited about, especially in the morning as well too. Oops, I'm going to mute everybody. And so, yeah, I would love, first of all, Erik, for you to share a little bit about your journey and who or how you got started with lucid dreaming and breath work. And I also forgot to mention that if anybody has any questions, we're going to do questions at the end, but feel free to put it in the chat and I'll go ahead and facilitate the questions once we are done with Erik's presentation and then the breath work and the visualization exercise he's going to take us through. But anyways, go ahead and Erik, and I would love to hear a little bit more about your journey.
Cool. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
We lost your audio. Sorry, can you try again? It was on. Interlude. There you go. Can you
Am I
try again?
back?
You're back. Okay, you're good.
Ooh, so sorry.
It's okay.
Check.
We did do a test run
Sorry.
right before this. It's all good. It's all good. That's part of the flow, right? That's part of the flow, and we work with it. We flow with it. So, are you good
Sorry
now?
about that.
It's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
good.
I've got this iRig stream, little technical difficulty, but let's get it rolling. So I'm Erik Casano. I'm the founder of Aquarian Alchemy, and it's a wellness brand. And I mainly focus on teaching people natural healing techniques and natural techniques to become more aware or to concentrate better or to liberate yourself from suffering. And I mainly focus on rebirthing breathwork that was taught by this guy, Leonard Orr. But before we get into that, just a little bit about my background. I won't go into it too deep.
Oh, Erik, your audio cut out again. So sorry. Erik? Uh-oh. Erik, hold on.
Oh, we
Sorry.
cannot hear us.
I know. We're trying. We can't hear you.
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about, let me go ahead and talk a little bit about gratitude then. Anyone else want to share what they're grateful for before we kick back into the talk? I'm grateful for the sunshine right now because it's supposed to be rainy. I always love the sunshine and you know,
Hmm.
just having a beautiful moment with vitamin D and just being outside and meeting beautiful friends. I'm excited for the day as well. Anybody else want to share anything else we're grateful for while we fix the sound issue?
I'll share. I'm
Can you
Tori.
guys hear
Lovely
me
to
now?
meet
We
everybody.
can
Hey, yeah, I think we can hear
we
you.
we can hear you. Let's have Tori
Okay.
share a quick
Okay.
gratitude since she
Cool.
jumped in,
I
and then
am grateful for the global community of the giraffe family, and that we can come together and support one another from across the globe, like-minded people, and connect. And yeah.
I love that.
amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So I just downsized my rig, so I won't have any more issues. But you can
Okay,
hear me okay?
we can hear you. We can
Okay,
hear you.
sorry.
So let's go ahead and let you share a little bit about your journey.
Okay, cool. So when I was 27, I had this my first spiritual experience as an adult, and I did it by reading this book. Now, this is really silly, called The Idiot's Guide to Chakras. And and I was very new to this world. And in this book, it said you can have a Kundalini activation if you hold your breath and do your Kegel exercise. And I was like, what? Like, why have I never heard of this? So I tried it, held my breath, did my Kegels, and within 4 or 5 minutes, I had my first spiritual experience. I'm sure you guys have heard of the Kundalini kind of going up the spine. Some people's Kundalini activations actually go to their 7th chakra, it goes to the crown of their head. Mine kind of went to my 6th. And so we wouldn't call that a full activation. But what I did is that I sort of went to some more advanced techniques before I learned basic techniques. And because I didn't know what I was doing. I was 27 and I was new to this world. So now coming full circle, I realized that before we start activating our Kundalini, it's a really good idea to get into breath work, stretching, meditation, detoxing of the body and mind before we start dabbling with our Kundalini energy. Now, while I had a great time for sure, this Kundalini activation that I had at 27, it lasted 6 months, actually. It peaked after about 2 weeks and it slowly declined after 6 months. After doing one exercise, changed my life. And at the end of during the 6 months, my heart was blasted open. It felt like I was on ecstasy. I became really nice and my speech became better. I became more empathetic. But at the end of the 6 months, I kind of asked myself, well, how do you get it back? Because I felt normal again, which was fine. But the truth is, we really can get higher without drugs than with. And that's what I found over the past few years. And while I love plant medicine and things like that, I found that the ultimate way for releasing trauma is through breath work. And we'll get deep into this here in a little bit. So, yeah, that's kind of the beginning of my spiritual journey. I have a really long story, but I won't bore you with this stuff. But so over the years, I've created this wellness platform called Aquarian Alchemy. And while I teach breathwork, or rebirthing breathwork as taught by Leonard Orr, I also created the very first online course for breathwork and lucid dreaming. And there's a lot of courses online for breathwork, a lot of courses online for lucid dreaming, but no one has blended it together and served it up in a very nice Western perspective, like I've done. And I've just read a bunch of books on breathwork, a bunch of books on lucid dreaming, and I was trained at Haidakhan ashram in the Himalayas. And I was trained by this guy, DP Mahesh, and Mahesh's teacher was Leonard Orr. So Leonard Orr was a white guy from Virginia, but he taught many monks, and I found that very fascinating. And my teacher Mahesh, he was a monk for 7 years, and I kind of made the joke, I wasn't interesting, like this white guy is like all y'all's teachers. And Mahesh kind of laughed at me and he said, Eric, but you don't know what he was in a past life. I'm like, okay, touche. I encourage you guys to all research Leonard Orr. You can Google him later and find out more about him. And later, if we get a group chat going, I can actually send you guys one of Leonard Orr's books on PDF through WhatsApp, and you guys can download it and check it out. So while Leonard Orr wrote a lot of books on breathwork, what he really focused on was healing the birth trauma. He calls the style of breathwork rebirthing breathwork for a reason, because he presented the idea that we are traumatized by birth if you're born in a hospital, and you can heal that through the breathwork. So normally, if you're born in a hospital, like I am, I didn't have hippie parents, I'm not a water birth. If you're born in a hospital and the doctors cut the umbilical cord right after you come out your mom's womb, and then they take the baby away and put it in a room of strangers, that in itself is a birth trauma. First of all, a better way to give birth is after the baby comes out, wait at least 30 minutes to cut the umbilical cord. That way the umbilical cord stops pumping blood, and the mother should hold the baby for at least 2 days. To take the baby away from the mother, it creates less oxytocin within both parties. So, and if you ever meet someone who had a really smooth water birth, look at them as they grow up. Usually they're taller, smarter, more psychic, more evolved, less issues, because our birth, it sets the stage, it sets the tone for the rest of our lives. And so me, for example, not only am I a C-section baby, but I'm also a late baby. So each birth trauma actually has certain personality defects that can follow us, but truly we can heal through anything. So me being a late baby, what that looks like is that I just didn't want to come out of the womb. My mom wanted it to be a natural birth, but for whatever reason, I was like, no, I like it here. This is cozy. So as a C-section baby and as a late baby, late babies tend to have a hard time waking up in the morning. So every night when you go to bed, it's kind of like being reborn. People who have smooth, easy births, they tend to wake up really easily in the morning. So when I look back at my life, it was always a challenge to wake up in the morning. But throughout the years, when I started doing 4 a.m. meditations through Vipassana and through Kundalini Yoga, I found that when you meditate at 4 a.m. in the morning, in other words, when you work on concentration with your eyes closed early in the morning, it starts making you really intuitive. And lucid dreaming is simply a side effect of proper meditation. If your meditations are working correctly, you'll start being lucid in your dreams naturally. And also, what's really interesting is people who have really bad birth traumas. Maybe there was a breach or a plethora of other things. Some people have the umbilical cord wrapped around their neck. Some people come out with the umbilical cord wrapped around their wrists. And people who have horrible birth traumas, a lot of times they have a hard time focusing or concentrating. So concentration has everything to do with enlightenment, actually. So, okay, so Leonard Orr, he found rebirthing on accident when he was much younger. He passed out in his sauna, and he started like feeling like he was coming out of the womb again. And then he started breathing deep in a warm bathtub, and again having these visions of coming out of the womb again. So rebirthing breathwork it's really called that because if you do it in a warm bathtub, you relive coming out the womb again in a much more gentle way. So when people do, okay, well, first of all, there's something called pranayama, and then there's breath work. When people say breath work, you have to ask them what they mean by that. Same with the word meditation, because here in the West, we're actually quite spiritually immature, and we're learning. We, including myself, we all got to start somewhere. And what I found is that, well, from one perspective, pranayama is many different types of breathing techniques that have come from India. You have the Wim Hof method, which is like Tumo breathing, Tumo pranayama, even though that's more Tibetan. And then you have things like Bastrika pranayama, Nadi Shumna pranayama, a breath of fire, which I think they call bellows breath. And there's many forms of breathing techniques that are really great. They're really great for maintenance. They're great for focus, but they're not going to heal your deep trauma and wounds. So breath work could be considered really intense breath work. Breath work, as the way I'm taught, it basically means really deep breathing for about an hour and a half. So if you lay, like every human being, while we're all unique, we're actually all very similar as well. And we all need to eat, we all need to breathe. What you need to eat, I'm not going to tell you, that's for you to decide. But so when we lay down, or even if we sit up and we breathe as deep as we can, let's say just all through the nose, active inhale, passive exhale. So when we forcefully inhale and we stretch our lungs out to the fullest, and we relax when we exhale, and we keep that fluid for about an hour and a half. First of all, we don't even start releasing the traumas until about 30 minutes into a session. And then once you hit that 30-minute mark, and I'm just generalizing here, everybody's a little unique, but for most people, in my experience, they don't start releasing till 30 minutes into it. So breathe deep for 30 minutes, then you start releasing things, and you want to breathe for about another 30 minutes to an hour. And what we're trying to do during a rebirthing breathwork session is we're trying to complete an energy cycle. And you know when the energy cycle is done, because a big release will happen. You'll feel it physically and emotionally. And it's really intense for most people. So some of the immediate side effects of doing a rebirthing breathwork session, it would be like getting tetany, or people get completely cramped up. Their hands do this. This means tetany. Right? Maybe some of you guys have experienced that before. And when you get tetany, that's an indicator of a birth trauma. So it's like your arms are connected to your heart. So your arms are part of your heart chakra, if you will. And the more you do breath work, the less tetany you get. Every session, you'll get less tetany. It'll be harder to get tetany. I remember the first time I did a rebirthing session, within 10 minutes, I'm like, oh, completely cramped up. I couldn't move. And it was that moment, I was like, oh my God, I got to teach this to everybody. This is what I've been looking for. It was quite amazing. And that was about, it was about 8 years ago. And it's been quite a journey ever since. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about trauma. So when a trauma happens, whether it's during your birth, or maybe during childhood, maybe abuse, or maybe you were bullied, or whatever, when a trauma happens, metaphysically, we lose a piece of our soul when and where it happened. Hence a haunted house. A lot of bad stuff happened in a haunted house. You know, you walk into somewhere where a lot of bad things happen, you can feel it. So what's the opposite of a haunted house? Well, I think it's an ashram. You walk into an ashram and so much good has happened. And you walk and you feel it, right? So, okay, so when a trauma happens, you lose a piece of your soul when it happened metaphysically. Physically, you receive a blockage in your body. So when you breathe really deep, the blockage opens up physically, and metaphysically, your spirit goes back to when and where the trauma happened, and you take a piece of your soul back. And it's really fascinating. During a breathwork session, especially in the beginning, you don't have to think about anything. All you got to do is breathe, and then people automatically go back to a trauma and they start making peace with it. You know, they forgive whoever hurt them. You know, they find deep love in their hearts. And then all of a sudden they feel lighter. The blockage is released, and they feel more whole, you know. So breathwork is the key to not suffering. And I will get deeper into how breathwork relates to meditation and what meditation actually means. So, okay, so Leonard Orr also taught something called the 5 elements breathwork. And initially, that means that you can do rebirthing breathwork in 5 different environments, and they all have very different effects on your conscious mind and your unconscious mind. So when you lay down and breathe as deep as you can for an hour and a half in a rebirthing session, that's for the heart chakra. That's the air element. So imagine breathing as deep as you can, buried in the ground up to your neck, sitting down and being buried, and just your head poking out of the ground, and you breathe deep for an hour. That's rebirthing with the earth element for the bottom chakra. It's really great for grounding. It's next level. It could be the most, it's very intense and really awesome. So you can also do rebirthing breath work, as I mentioned before, in a warm bathtub. And because the heat of the water is, you know, hot, it makes you hot, it's really intense. People tend to go into tetany within 5 minutes while breathing deep in the warm bathtub. And again, breathing deep in a warm bathtub is why it's called rebirthing, because that's, as far as I'm concerned, one of the ultimate ways to heal the birth trauma, because the amniotic sac that you're in is very warm. It's a warm place. So when you're breathing in a warm bathtub, start healing deep things in your subconscious mind. Also, you can breathe really deep next to a fire, and that's, you know, for the 3rd chakra. And breathing really deep next to a fire is, well, that's my cloud 9. It is amazing. If you ever just sit next to a fire, have you guys noticed how blissful it is? It's like, oh, the fire feels so good. I'm not talking about a candle. I'm talking you're sitting next to a roaring fire. That's why so many ceremonies and rituals are done next to a fire. And if you start getting into channeling, you can actually ask the fire any question and it'll tell you the answer. It's pretty amazing. And if you have a hard time with it, you can do breath work next to a fire, ask the fire anything, and it's much easier to receive information because, you know, we are like walking, talking transistor radios. You know, a transistor radio is initially, it's like a quartz crystal inside there with a copper wire wrapped around it, and that receives different frequencies. So apparently our pineal gland actually has crystals in it. So it's not really so far-fetched to understand that we send and receive frequencies. I think, you know, all you guys are probably pretty hip to those types of concepts. So, and then we can also breathe deep, just laying down for the earth element, as I mentioned before. And we can also do breath work in a hammock for the fifth chakra, or the ether element. Because think about it, sound is invisible. It's very etheric. It's here 1 second, it's gone the next, you know. And when you breathe deep in a hammock, it's really good for like religious trauma, and like, of course, old programming, because when you're doing breath work in a hammock, it feels like you're suspended in air. It feels like you're floating. So it's really good to connect to the ethers in that way. And I've only done breath work in a hammock a handful of times, and I could use some more. So that's the 5 elements breath work. In the book that I'll send you guys on WhatsApp, Leonard goes over all this stuff, and it's cool stuff. So, all right. So so as I mentioned before, a birth trauma can make us a little detached and a little, we can lack concentration if we have a birth trauma. Ironically, you know, I want to talk about the other side of this. Some people who have really horrible traumas, that can actually ignite their enlightenment. It can actually ignite their lucidity. Now, I've met a lot of people who they say, oh, I've been lucid dreaming my whole life. And some of these people, it's because, well, they had a really great birth. They had really great parents who, you know, gave them a water birth or something. So they just were always lucid when they sleep. Now, on the other side, I've met a handful of people who have had nightmares as kids for various reasons, whether it's, you know, trauma or just or from the birth or whatever. And a lot of times, if people have repeating nightmares as children, sometimes that repeating nightmare can allow them to be lucid because they keep seeing it over and over, and eventually they're like, oh, wait a minute, this is a dream. And they have that experience as a kid, and then they understand how to become aware while they're sleeping, and then they are all of a sudden lucid all the time. So Leonard Orr, the reason he taught rebirthing breathwork, the reason he was able to help millions of people heal their birth trauma is initially because he had a horrible birth trauma. He was unwanted by his parents. If your parent is like, oh, geez, I wanted a girl, you know, and just that thought, that feeling can deeply affect a baby's subconscious mind to where they always feel unwanted throughout their whole lives, and they don't even know why. So in a way, sometimes these traumas can actually be a gift if we are lucky enough to be able to work through it. And I feel so blessed that I have that this work was brought to me, and I'm able to share it with so many people. And you know, I'm just going to tell you guys, because this is part of my journey, and this is really heavy, and I try to avoid this, especially when talking about it online, because I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to be a bummer, and I don't want to be a downer. But you know, so what happened with me is, so I beat cancer 10 years ago, and that's a whole nother story. And I did some Western stuff, and when the Western stuff failed me, I learned to fast, and the fasting is actually what healed me. Long story, I'll save it for another time. So actually I had my wife, she passed away 6 years ago from cancer. And about a year before she passed away, she had breast cancer, and she was really worried, and she asked God for help. She said, God, I don't know what to do. Send me a sign. And a flyer for a breathwork class literally landed on our doorstep that night. And that was a flyer for my future teacher was on the flyer, DP Mahesh. And so Cassie, my late wife, found this flyer and showed it to me. She's like, I found this on doorstep. I think I should go. And I looked at it, and I said, looks good to me. So while she didn't survive, I did see that the breath work helped her heal, helped her unload a little bit of trauma and heaviness before she passed away. It made her transition a lot easier, but I also saw the breath work shrink her tumor. And we can go deep into the cancer thing on another talk, but that is something that I understand profoundly. And now I help thousands of people heal incurable stuff, for free, and that's just my gift. So my whole point is that, through my trauma, through my late wife's trauma, the breath work was magically, synchronistically brought into our reality, not just for ourselves, but so we could share this. Because I rarely meet people in LA who know about Leonard Orr. Some people have tried, holotropic breath work and things like that. And holotropic breath work and rebirthing breath work are very similar. Holotropic's more through the mouth, rebirthing is more through the nose. But they have different approaches. I'm not so sure if holotropic breathwork really acknowledges the whole birth trauma thing, because that really is like Leonard Orr's thing. That's why he called it rebirthing. And anyway, so let's get into this lucid dreaming stuff a little bit. As I told you, with the birth trauma, having a really bad birth trauma can make us less aware and less lucid in our dreams. And I started having adult lucid dreams when I read this book called A Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming, and that was just my initiatory stuff. That was really just basic stuff. And so I'm going to go over like these 5 pillars of lucid dreaming that I created. It's on my online course and things like that. And I talk about this in workshops and things. So when I first became initiated into lucid dreaming, it was simply because I learned some very basic Western lucid dreaming techniques. Now, when I say Western lucid dreaming techniques versus Eastern lucid dreaming techniques, it's all the same, but it's just so we can differentiate the two. So Western lucid dreaming techniques would involve things like a dream journal or reality checks. Now, this has very little to do with meditation and things like that. Eastern techniques of becoming lucid is going to be meditating early in the morning. And I'll get deeper into that in a little bit. So this book that I got a few years ago, my late wife actually gave me this book when I had cancer. And she's like, and I went to go deal with cancer in Sweden because I'm a Swedish citizen and it was free surgery and whatever. So before I got on the plane, Cassie was like, here, I think you should have this book that she had found. And I was like, cool, Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming. I want to learn this. So some of the main points of lucid dreaming is first of all, dream journaling. It's so important. So when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you can do, if you would like to dive into your dreams and learn what they're all about, because they're here to teach you. It's just the way it is. We just dream. I don't know why, it just happens. It's part of the nature of our reality. So when you wake up in the morning, first thing you can do is keep your eyes closed and recall the dream that you just had. If you noticed, when you wake up in the morning and you open your eyes and you start moving around, what happens? You start forgetting the dream. It starts fading away, but it's really like, in your face in the morning. So you wake up in the morning, close your eyes, recall the dream, and then write it down. And this is so important. And maybe some of you guys have done this at different times in your life. Maybe you're doing it now, but it's really cool to do that because every morning when you write your dream down, if you do it consistently, you'll notice that your dream entries get longer and longer and longer and longer. And within a couple of weeks, you're remembering pages and details of your dreams. It's pretty cool. Also, something that I found that's actually really important is writing your day down at night, right before you go to bed. And that didn't even click with me until a couple of years ago. And I realized how important that is. So that's important because before you go to sleep, it's really good to process your day. A lot of times we're just processing our day while we're sleeping. We're just dreaming of a bunch of malarkey, because we have all this subconscious garbage, honestly. And also, by the way, breath work, one of the side effects of breath work is expanded memory and concentration. Just wanted to throw that in there. So when you write your day down before you go to bed, first of all, you're processing your day. And second of all, you're working on your memory and concentration. And lucid dreaming has everything to do with memory and concentration. Because as I mentioned before, lucid dreaming is also a side effect of proper meditation. So, so it's really good to have a really great nighttime practice and morning practice. And if you, by the way, if you meditate at 4 a.m., it's completely different than meditating at noon. You'll really find you're working on concentration with your eyes closed, as I call meditation. And I'll define meditation a little deeper here in a little bit. But if you work on concentration with your eyes closed at 4 a.m., you're really going to feel the fruits of your meditation actually working, and that's when it trickles into your dream time. And you can even work on meditation at 4 a.m. and then go back to sleep if you want, and that's pretty cool. We'll get deeper into that in a little bit as well. So okay, so I went over the dream journal, and I went over writing your day down before you go to bed. Another Western lucid dreaming technique. And you'll read about this in every single lucid dreaming book, and you'll see it. Even if you Google lucid dreaming, you'll see this technique I'm about to describe. There's something called a reality check, and a reality check is when you just are going throughout your day, and all day you ask yourself the magical question: "Am I dreaming?" And then you have to answer it. No. And some people have different techniques with that, like they'll switch on a light, or they'll tap their hand or look at the watch, and there's different ways to do reality checks. So the idea behind that is that the more you ask yourself this question, am I dreaming, you're implanting it into your subconscious mind. And initially when you're dreaming, your subconscious mind kind of takes over. That's why when you're dreaming, if you're not lucid, you have no idea you're dreaming. And you're probably just a version of yourself at best. You don't have all your memories clearly, because then you would be lucid. So if you keep asking yourself this question all day, every day, am I dreaming? No. Okay, but you really got to answer it. You can't just mindlessly say, am I dreaming? No, you got to really check in. Eventually, you'll ask yourself that while you're dreaming. You'll be dreaming and you say, am I dreaming? Oh, I am. And at that moment, that's when you become lucid and you realize you're dreaming. All your memories come flooding back to you, and you know exactly who you are, but you're like, whoa, I'm in a dream. And then it begins. And that's just the beginning of your journey. It's like, not to be cheesy, because I know superhero movies are a bunch of kind of, it's a bunch of garbage, really. But I love superhero movies regardless. But it's kind of like when a superhero discovers their power and they're just beginning to learn, how to use it. Like, oh, Spider-Man first learns he can shoot webs. So then he's like, got to figure it out. So that's kind of like when you first become lucid. It all depends on the power of your concentration. So some people, the moment they're lucid, they start flying. Now, flying in lucid dreams, that's for beginners, actually. But it's good. It means that you're ascending your consciousness. It's a metaphor for ascending your consciousness. But flying is great. And I've had times where I became lucid, but my concentration was so poor that I couldn't even fly. I was like, oh man, now I got to meditate more, but truly, with all this stuff I'm talking about, it's all about being here and now. There's nowhere to get. You're going there anyway, I promise. And that's the paradox of doing the active enlightenment work, is that there's nowhere to get. And the more present you become, the more lucid you'll become in your dreams. So it's, while I love psychedelic stuff, I think it's really cool to lucid dream and like fly around the place. Being grounded is actually the key for lucid dreaming. Being very present and grounded is the key to everything, actually. So, okay, so those were some of the Western techniques for lucid dreaming. And it's all about dream recollection. By the way, if you have really great dream recollection, you'll be able to become lucid really easily. Before you become lucid in your dreams, you have to have good dream recollection. And again, that happens through dream journaling and remembering them in the morning. All right, so let's talk about meditation. So the word meditation, there are two perspectives of meditation. There's the Eastern perspective of meditation, and there's the Western perspective of meditation. Now, if you Google the word meditation, you're going to see the Western perspective. And it's kind of meaningless. You'll see synonyms like contemplation, thinking, pondering, wondering, channeling, dreaming. None of those words actually means meditation. It's at best, it's a Western perspective. Now, meditation from the Eastern perspective, or in the yogic tradition, it's called dhyana, and dhyana means letting go. And what that actually means is that you can concentrate on one thing or nothing, because nothing is one thing, without letting your mind wander. Now, if I tell you to visualize an apple right now, how long can you think of that apple until another thought comes in? 5, 10 seconds, 15 at best. And that's pretty good. So thinking of one thing without letting your mind wander, that's meditation from the Eastern perspective. That may take decades or lifetimes to achieve. Now, some people are supernaturally spiritually advanced. I'm not one of them. That's why I understand these active techniques like the breath work and the meditation. This is very active. But then there's also the passive techniques, and that's simply just letting go. And some people, like I said, they can concentrate really great. Maybe it's because they read a lot of books. Maybe it's because they work really hard and they just know how to focus. Or again, maybe it's because their birth was so smooth and simple that they're just so good at focus. And bam, you're lucid all the time. So for me, I had to cleanse my body. I had to cleanse the mind with mantras. And mantras is great. We're going to go into that in a little bit. So, okay, so I went over the Eastern and Western perspective of meditation. Now, in the yogic tradition, there's something called the 8 limbs of yoga. And the 8 limbs of yoga is a very logical system that can lead you to enlightenment, which is called samadhi. Now, there are different levels of samadhi, and I don't even know what they are. I know them. I barely understand the most basic level of samadhi, but this goes beyond and beyond and beyond. It depends how far you want to take your enlightenment journey. Some people just want a little bit and they're good. Some people want to be physically immortal. And Leonard Orr wrote all these books on physical immortality. And that's a deep subject that I would have to go into another time. I also lecture on physical immortality, and it's not through AI. I teach it through natural techniques. But another story. Okay, so the 8 limbs of yoga. 8 limbs, right? And you can look at these limbs as steps. They're not steps, but you can look at them as steps. And the 8th limb, or the 8th step, is samadhi. The 7th limb of yoga, that's meditation, or remember, letting go. So then you have these 6 limbs of yoga to prepare the body for meditation proper, as I'll call it. Not meditation from the Western perspective, but meditation proper, which is, like I said, focusing on one thing without letting your mind wander. So let's go over these 6 limbs of yoga that prepare the body for meditation proper. So the first limb of yoga is be good to yourself. Pretty basic stuff, right? Say nice things to yourself, eat good food, treat yourself with love yourself deep. Don't be a narcissist, but just love yourself. Second limb of yoga, that's be good to other people. Pretty basic stuff. Karma, right? If you're nice to other people, people are nice to you. If you're nice to other people, the universe is nice to you. Basic stuff. Third limb of yoga, asanas. That's what we call yoga in the West, which is not yoga at all. It's actually a little bizarre that yoga is sold to us as some form of exercise. Now, while stretching and exercise is very important, it's not yoga. It's only an 8th of yoga. So the 4th limb of yoga is pranayama. And that's what I teach. I teach the most intense form of pranayama. In fact, according to my teacher, Mahesh, who was a monk for 7 years, as I mentioned, he says that rebirthing breathwork is actually something beyond pranayama. He says it's more intense than pranayama. You're actually like mixing other limbs together. So, but regardless, rebirthing breathwork is pranayama. It is yogic breathwork. It's just very intense and very effective pranayama. So the 5th limb of yoga, that is withdrawal of the senses or going internal. And so if you're doing these other limbs of yoga, you're stretching, you're breathing, and you start doing the breath work and your kundalini is active, right? And because breath work activates your kundalini energy, you're gonna be forced to go internal and explore your own universe, your own internal reality. And your imagination isn't the spirit realm, but it's the bridge to the spirit realm. And we'll get into that a little deeper here in a few. So the sixth limb of yoga, that's concentration. That's what we're doing when we meditate. We're actually mixing limbs 5 and 6. We're withdrawal of the senses, we're going internal, and then we're working on concentration. So what can that look like? That can be a Vipassana meditation, which is body scans. It can be mantras, which are insanely powerful. I didn't really get the mantra thing until 3 or 4 years ago. And I was like, oh, I get it. And I actually have a kirtan blues rock band called Shivambu. So I'll share the link later. And it was me getting into it wasn't until I finished my EP with my buddy Ranjan. I don't know if you guys know Ranjan. He's a famous tea server who serves tea at all these festivals. So we started a band called Shivambu, and once I started doing mantras just silently before bed, it made me lucid at night, actually. I mean, I've woke up at 5 in the morning, sat up, did Om Namah Shivaya for about 5 minutes, went back to sleep, and went lucid. Why? Because I worked on concentration right before going to bed. And some of the keys to lucidity is concentration and relaxation. So, okay. So I'm going to go over these limbs one more time. So the first limb, be good to yourself. Second limb, be good to other people. Third limb, exercise. Fourth limb, breathing, pranayama. Fifth limb, going internal or withdraw the senses. Sixth limb is concentration. So once you do these 6 limbs of yoga and they're incorporated into your life, then maybe one day with enough vigorous work or letting go, you can meditate properly. And so when you meditate properly, it means that you're perfectly focused in the present moment. It means that you're not worried about the future, you're not fretting about the past, but you're coming perfectly present. And if you're present and letting go into the present, that can really activate your Kundalini energy and potentially send you to samadhi, even if it's temporary. I've never been to samadhi as far as I know. Maybe I've had temporary samadhi experiences through plant medicine, but that's not really samadhi. That's like sort of a small little window to like, look what's possible, but no one's ever been enlightened taking plant medicine. If anything, plants can help you meditate. They can show you the work you need to do, as what I've noticed on high doses of ayahuasca and things like that. It's really beautiful. But again, I've actually met multiple people now who have sort of reached a plateau in their ayahuasca journey, and the ayahuasca told them, use your breath. I have multiple people tell me that, and I'm like, sweet. It's definitely told me that, that's pretty cool. Okay, so that's the 8 limbs of yoga, just kind of summed up. And again, everything that I'm talking about today, I really encourage you guys, do your own research, see what vibes with you, see what you're willing to do. And, I understand this stuff because, to be honest, I lacked discipline my whole life. It's pretty lazy. So, and I never understood the point of discipline until I was like, hey, I don't want to suffer anymore. Well, then you have to get disciplined and work hard, at least on yourself. And now that's paralleling with my business. So it's all perfect and beautiful, as life is. So, okay, so that's the 8 limbs of yoga. Now let's talk about visualization. This is the 3rd pillar, by the way. Just to go over these 5 pillars really quick. So the first pillar that I went over was dream recollection. Second pillar is meditation. Third pillar is visualization and wake-induced lucid dreams. Fourth pillar is going to be dream incubation, and fifth pillar is lucidity. So right now we're on the 3rd pillar, and this is about visualization and wake-induced lucid dream. Okay, so I now where I'm at in my life, especially like, by the way, I just want to a little bit. I'm just going to sidetrack here a little bit. My late wife Cassie, well, she was so beautiful, and she was gorgeous, and she was so cool. And when we first got together, I had a prerequisite to having a partner. You have to be down with the spiritual path. And she was like, yeah, I'm down. Let's meditate and things. I'm like, cool. So she became really psychic immediately. Like when we first started meditating, she started channeling past lives and deities and future events and like wild stuff. Copy. So I learned a lot about psychicism through my late wife, and then when she passed away, I was able to channel her spirit, and she would come and talk to me and tell me what I need to do and help me heal. It was profound, to say the least. And now I actually teach people to channel at festivals, which is pretty wild. So I'm not even that visual. And now I'm even at the point where I'm training psychics. I'm actually training people who are more visual than I am, and they can channel like better than me, actually. They can actually bring in more detail than I can. But I just understand this stuff really deep, and I'm pretty good at articulating it at this point. So okay, so visualization. So when you close your eyes, you can visualize anything. Some people are more visual than others, like again. But so there's something called active visualization and passive visualization. Active visualization is when you choose what you want to see with your imagination. Passive visualization is when you let it just play out. So by the way, if you let's say you're right before you go into a dream, throughout the night when you sleep, you have about 3 lucid dreams. Or sorry, not 3 lucid dreams. You have about 3 dreams, 3 intense dreams. It can vary. It depends on your sleep cycle. Everybody's a little different. But as you notice, it's that last REM cycle right before you wake up where the dreams are most intense. So how dreams work is that whatever you're thinking about right before you go into that dream, that's what you dream about. So, while you're sleeping, your mind is like going, it's defragging, it's going through all this stuff, and whatever you're thinking about right before you go into the dream state, that's what you dream about. That's why a lot of times when we're not lucid, our dreams they seem random or weird or just social baloney or whatever. But so that's why it's all about sort of unprogramming our mind, washing our brain out, not brainwashing, but washing our brain. So if, let's say I'm like really tired, right, and I can go right into a dream. Let's say I've stayed up for a whole day, and I'm just super sleepy. And the moment I close my eyes, I go right into a dream. Whatever I think about, whatever I visualize right before I go into the dream, that's what I'll dream about. So if I visualize, let's say I visualize Jesus. Let's say I'm just visualizing Jesus and I'm about to go right into a dream. Bam, I'm going to have a dream about Jesus. And that's called a wake-induced lucid dream. So there's a dream-induced lucid dream, and that's the lucid dreams we have at night. And then there's a wake-induced lucid dream, which is what psychics do. That's having a dream while you're awake. And then there's the breath-induced lucid dream. That happens when we do rebirthing breath work. At the end of the hour and a half of deep breathing, people tend to have like a dream. And then there's also like plant medicine lucid dreams. And that's, that's a different thing. So there's a little explanation of visualization. There's active visualization and passive visualization. And we're gonna do, I only have a few more minutes, and then we still have time for a visualization, right?
Yes, we'll probably go till about 10:10.
Okay, perfect. So okay, so I'm almost done here. Let's talk about dream incubation. So if you notice, if you like watch a movie before you go to bed, sometimes you'll dream about that movie because you implanted that movie into your subconscious mind right before you went to bed. So you can incubate any dream you want. And there's different ways to do that. First of all, you can visualize the dream of your choice for at least 20 minutes before you go to bed every single night. And eventually you'll dream about that. And another way to really make sure that you another way to incubate the dream of your choice is to visualize the dream of your choice at 4 a.m. for about an hour and then go back to sleep. So if you visualize the dream of your choice right before you go to bed and at 4 a.m. in the middle of the night and then go back to sleep, do that consistently, eventually you'll dream about it. And that takes effort and discipline, but your dreams literally have the answers to everything. We're all very psychic, and some of us are just a little blocked up from diet, environmental toxins, and of course, through programming, through social programming. And school, our friends, things like that. We actually take on people's energies when we sit next to them. Leonard Orr referred to that as EEP, or emotional energetic pollution. We all put off EEP and we absorb that from other people. And there's two ways to, I digress, but I just have to go over this because this is very important. There's two ways to cleanse emotional energetic pollution that accumulates in our auric field, actually. And the two main ways to cleanse our EEP is either bathing, especially with salt water, or sitting next to a fire. So if you work with the fire every day, and if you bathe every day, you're going to find yourself feeling a lot lighter and cleansing energy faster than you can pick it up. By the way, we get sick because we pick up other people's energies, and it's just accumulating in us. So if you're always bathing, breathing, and sitting next to a fire, you're probably not going to get sick, especially if your diet's on point. But it's for you to discover, that's so okay, so last thing. So lucidity or dream yoga. So once you've done these practices and you actually start becoming lucid in your dreams, that's just the beginning, as I mentioned. And it depends how far you want to take your lucid dreams. You could just become lucid to have fun and live out fantasies, but that's going to become old really fast. Like I said, beginner lucid dreamers will actually do two things. They'll fly and they'll make love. They'll actually want to have sex and live out those kind of fantasies, which is fine. But then you might get, if you're lucid all the time, you're going to get bored of those things. And you're going to say, okay, I want something deeper. So then you can research something called Tibetan dream yoga. And Tibetan dream yoga is initially doing different tasks while you're sleeping. So flying is one of them. Creating a deity to hang out with and be taught by a deity is another. Going to different planets and different worlds is also another form of dream yoga. And one of the most advanced techniques in dream yoga is meditating while you're dreaming. And I've tried it before, and it's hard. I wake up doing it. I've been lucid in my dream, I'm going to sit down and meditate. And I sat down and meditate, saw sacred geometry swirling, and then I just woke up. I was like, oh, yeah, not ready for that one, because beginner lucid dreamers should engage in the dream. They should go around and talk, because if you try to slow your mind down, if a beginner tries to slow their mind down in a lucid dream, it'll probably wake you up. Because if you relax too much, you become unconscious. If you concentrate too intensely, you'll wake up. You got to find this balance where you're relaxed and concentrating. And I've really felt that when I did a Vipassana retreat a few years ago. I had a couple lucid dreams, and during my Vipassana retreat, I think it was on day 3, it started happening for me. And I was flying. A lot of my lucid dreams, I'm on top of buildings, maybe because I like superheroes, and I'm flying. And as I'm flying, I'm like, okay, I need to take something back with me. I need some wisdom here. How am I lucid right now? Okay, there's 3 things going on. I'm concentrating, I'm relaxing, and I'm letting go of fear. I'm like, there's your recipe for lucidity: concentration, relaxation, and letting go of fear. Those are good ones. So Tibetan, we could go on. I could go on and on, but I know we have limited time. And is it about 30 minutes? Did I do okay with the timing?
Oh yeah, you're doing great. If we have time, can we go into the meditation or the
Yeah.
visualization, breath work, and then I don't think we'll have time for questions. Maybe one or two questions the most. But we'll work that out. So
Okay. Cool.
let's go ahead and first.
Yeah. All right. So by the way, just thank you guys for joining me and let me talk about this stuff. I really love all this stuff. It's super fun to share, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. So, all right. So as I mentioned, rebirthing breath work takes about an hour and a half, and then there's many forms of pranayama. So if you get on my Instagram, I've been doing a lot of these videos on Bastrika pranayama. I was just in Sweden doing Bastrika pranayama in the snow without a shirt on and doing ice bath. I'm a big ice bath guy. I was just on a podcast and they referred to me as the Swedish Iceman. I was like, oh, that's sweet. Okay, why not? So I want to show you guys how to do something called Bastrika pranayama. It's pretty easy and awesome. And you can, and this isn't really great for, releasing trauma. What this is really good for is concentration and for maintenance. It feels really good. And it is a precursor to meditation. Because remember, the 8 limbs of yoga, breath work or pranayama is a precursor to meditation. So, okay, so Bastrika pranayama, all it is we're going to do, well, first I'll explain it and then I'll do it once and then we'll all do it together. So, Bastrika pranayama is 10 deep breaths all through the nose. You're maxing out your lungs. It's not slow. It's actually, it's kind of rapid, but it's not like breath of fire, which is at the bottom of your breath. That's more breath of fire. If you guys have ever done it, is active exhale, passive inhale, equal breaths, but it's at the bottom of your lung. So, excuse me. So Bastrika pranayama is the opposite. It's active inhale, passive exhale. So 10 deep breaths. And on the 11th breath, take a deep breath and hold your breath at the top of your lungs for as long as you can, and then slowly exhale. And that's 1 round. So I'm going to do it really quick. Just bear with me. I'm not going to hold my breath for as long as I can because it's boring. But then together, we'll all do it together. So just watch me do it one time. So you can sit as it's better to do it sitting up. I'm going to do it all through the nose. So it looks like this. And excuse me if this is a little loud because I got my mic right here. So check it out. And then slowly exhale out of your nose. So that's 1 round. So normally if you do that in the morning, you can do 3 to 5 rounds. And the real magic happens with Bastrika when you're holding your breath as long as you can. Like when you really have to exhale and you keep holding your breath, you feel your heart and your lungs and your mind just kind of open up. Now, while everybody's different, sometimes it can be very visual there for a minute. Like for me, it felt like I was on DMT there for a second. When I first did this, I literally would pass out for holding my breath. I'd go, oh, I literally fall back. So if you fall back or pass out, make sure you're somewhere safe that you can't hurt yourself, because depending on the capacity of your lungs, if you're like a jogger or something, some people can literally, like I said, pass out. So make sure you're in a safe space before you do it. And yeah, if you pass out, then just chill out with the intensity, right? Maybe a little less intense on the breaths, and maybe, yeah, just a little less intense on the breaths. But the more you do it, the better it gets, you know? So let's just do 1 round together. I'm just gonna, so you don't have to turn on your cameras, but I'll just say, okay, you can exhale, and then we'll all come back to it. And then we'll do a little visualization if we have time for that. And that'll just take 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, so you guys ready? So all through the nose, let's do 10 deep breaths and hold it on the 11th. Ready? Let's go. 1. 2. Take a deep breath and hold it at the top of your lungs. Hold it for as long as you can. If you want, you can slowly exhale. That feel good? So also, just want to remind you guys, if you're doing this breath work, like I said, it's really good to do it first thing in the morning and then right before bed. When you hold your breath, it's good to focus right here. And if you want, you can say a mantra to keep your focus while you're doing retention, because rebirthing breathwork has no retention, and a lot of forms of pranayama involves breath retention, like Wim Hof method and things like that. Breath retention is good, and the longer you hold your breath, you'll find yourself, you'll be able to hold your breath longer and longer and longer until you're able to hold it for like 5 minutes. And this is great for swimming, and this is great for ice baths. And what I love to do is swim in frozen lakes. I mean, geez, yeah. I mean, I've been doing this breath work mixed with ice bath for about 6 years, and now I'm doing 30-minute ice baths, 33-degree, cold. And the breath work is definitely a part of, like, which helps me able to do like these long ice baths. And yeah, I'm not doing breath work while in the ice, but you want to do it like before or after. Really, I usually do it after, but just doing breath work in general helps your nerves and helps blood flow and your lymphatic system and your endocrine system and every system in your body. This is we turn air into prana, and prana goes through every cell of our body. So they're cool. So okay, so let's do a little visualization. So I mentioned to you guys earlier about visualization and wake-induced lucid dreams. So for the longest time, I thought that I had to have a full-blown wake-induced lucid dream to be a channeler. Turns out I was wrong. Turns out if you can use your visual mind, you can channel. So that's like literally everyone, and even if your visual mind is like sort of cloudy, like mine is, maybe I needed to read more when I was a kid, but when we visualize things and we work on mantras, and we read more, it actually opens our third eye. There's no plant or medicine that's going to open your third eye. Maybe there's some things that will detox your brain, but you open your third eye by opening it up. In other words, by using your imagination. You just start visualizing things, bam, your third eye is open. You don't have to do anything except visualize. So I hope this is okay with everyone. There's this, I have created hundreds of visualizations. Truth is, anyone can make up their own visualization. And remember, there's active visualization and passive visualization. Active visualization is when you choose what you want to see. Passive visualization is when you let it just play out. So there's a particular visualization that I like to use, that I teach everybody, and that I teach this at festivals. They actually had me on the lucid dreaming panel at Lucidity last year, and that was really cool. And they also had me do like a couple lucid dream workshops. It was really dope. But I have this go-to. So if everybody's okay with this, I like to I work with a deity. Her name is Green Tara. Do you know who Green Tara is? Awesome. So she's my, I like to make the joke, she's my favorite imaginary friend. And she's super sweet. She is, just so you guys know, because if some people don't like deities, or maybe some people are Christian and they don't like working with other deities or whatever, or that could be too woo-woo for people. Oh, that's awesome. But really what we're doing today is just think of it as a visual exercise, right? We are channeling, but I just tell people, this is a visual exercise just to get your visual mind rolling. So I like to take people to this cave. So I'm gonna explain this visualization, and then we're gonna close our eyes just for like 2 or 3 minutes, not long. And I'm gonna explain this cave. We're gonna visualize it, and then we're gonna passively let it play out. So I'm going to explain it with my hands. I like using my hands. So, okay, we're going to go to this cave. It's like, and on the cave walls are these little green glowing rocks. They look like twinkly stars. And the walkway is right here. So you literally walk on the cave right here. The walls are here. And then below is like a little waterway, right? You can see some water in the cave. And you're going to walk in this cave. And in front of you, you're going to see Green Tara. Now, if you don't know what she looks like, just use your imagination. I'll tell you she's the color green. Just a little side note, sometimes people have never seen green Tara. I tell them this visualization. They see this woman, and then I show a picture of her on my phone, and people are like, oh my God, that's who I saw. Now, that happens half the time. And again, what I've noticed over time is that it depends on their visual mind. Certain people who are not very visual, they may not see her, but they could interact with her energy, and they just see like a green glowing thing, like, oh, I felt this love. And like, I don't know, she gave me a message. I didn't see her. But half the people straight up see her. And they're like, whoa, like, dude, I didn't know I could do that. And I'm like, of course you can. So just tell you who she is really quick. She is a female Buddha. She is the goddess of compassion. And turns out she is Mother Gaia. She's the Earth's energy in a humanoid form in the etheric realm. But from a very logical perspective, she is just a green woman who represents compassion. So again, we're going to visualize this cave, and there's a walkway, and there's a moat right below, and we're going to see green tar right in front of us. And that's what we actively see with our imagination. And then we're going to ask her what you need for your happiness. Say, Tara, what do I need to become more happy and full? And then passively let the visualization just play out. And that's it. And we'll be done. And hopefully we'll have some time for some questions. So let's not take too long. I know we could go super deep with this. And once you have this visualization, you can do it anytime. And I just want to tell you, you can contact Tara anytime. You'll never be bothering her. She's super sweet and very playful. Let's just take 2 minutes to visualize her in the cave, and then we'll come back and wrap it up. So thank you guys. So let's close our eyes and begin to visualize the cave. And this isn't guided, by the way. I'm going to visualize it with you. So we're just going to be silent here for a couple minutes. So let's close our eyes and begin. Take your time and slowly come out of it. I apologize for pulling you out of this beautiful, warm, safe, happy cave.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I hope everyone learned something fun today, and I hope you were able to connect with Tara if that's your thing. And something I talk about with working with deities, whether you're working with Yahshua, Jesus, or the angels, or Tara or Shiva, all these homies from the light, you're not giving up your power to them. They're actually here to help you become stronger and whole. Just think of them as friends or teachers. And there's a lot of misconception on deities, like they're fallen. I've heard all kinds of things, but it's really all about tapping into your intuition and what you feel is right. No one can tell you the truth except yourself. And if anything, and if you get a nugget of truth here and there from different people and it resonates with you, fantastic, roll with it. But always check in with yourself with everything. So I want to say that.
This was amazing. I think we all got so much value. I was looking at the chats. Somebody even was a little bit late to the airport because she couldn't stop listening to you. Like everybody was just so grateful for every ounce of wisdom that you shared with us. And I'm like, I think I want to bring you back for something else. So, so we'll talk
Cool.
about that afterwards. But I don't know if I don't think we have time for questions. But if you want to reach out to Erik on WhatsApp, he's in our giraffe group. I'll get the PDF that you want to send out and I'll ask Max to post it with the video onto Circle.
Okay,
Um,
perfect.
That'll be the easiest way to do it. But yeah,
Can
so
I just jump in real quick? Well, if people want to leave, can we ask a bunch of questions? Whoever wants to leave, leave. If Erik has time.
I actually have another meeting, so it's on my Zoom account. So I apologize.
You can hit, I mean, I have time. You guys want to hit me up on WhatsApp? Can we do like a group thing right now on WhatsApp?
I mean, I would love to. I just have a couple of questions. Like,
Sure.
I was blown away by whatever you said. Like, I was just taking notes.
So why don't we do this? I will let's see. I think the best way, Erik is in our WhatsApp group. I tagged him. So if you want to message him, if that's okay with you, Erik,
Yeah.
when I posted the announcements, I tagged him in our WhatsApp group when we were talking about the fireside chat. If you want to reach out to him around the
I can
question.
just make a meet real quick and send it in the chat here, and whoever wants just click on it and we join there.
Okay,
If that
I
works.
Cool.
apologize. I do have another meeting,
No,
but
no, you're good. I'm
moving a little
just
bit.
pushing it.
And thank you so much for setting this up. You really did great. I appreciate your energy. I can see your smiling face and just like sending so much love to me and everybody, and it means a lot to me. So thank you so much for just holding space and doing awesome, being a great host.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I will let Shervin put the little meet into the chat
Yeah,
before.
I just sent it in the chat. Please
Perfect.
join.
So if
Also,
you
Erik, will you share, you mentioned your Instagram, will you share that in the chat?
Yeah, yes, I'll do that right now.
perfect. Thank you everyone for joining. We'll have again another fireside chat next week. Next week's is on, let me look real quick. It's going to be another good one. Creating powerful agreements. So be sure to come on. Go ahead and, get connected with Erik. I'm sure he has a lot of other resources, other ways that he can. Oh, sorry, Shervin, you just sent it to me. Let me get the link again. The link, if people want to join the other chat real quick to ask any other questions. I apologize, I do have to run, but thank you again, Erik. I want to bring you back on, and maybe we'll do a deeper dive into lucid dreaming or breath work or something where we can actually go deeper because you have a wealth of information. So thank you everyone for being here, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Thanks.